interview that I heard on the radio today on the ABC local Melbourne radio station. It's the interviewee is an artist by the name of Mark Raats, who does a bit of work for Lucasfilm, and the interviewer is Raph Epstein. I thought it might be interesting for those of you that do not have access to the local radio station.
Look, it's not like the next Star Wars film really needs the publicity. Still, there's a great piece of art going up in the city to advertise the new film, and the man who illustrated the massive Solo poster on the corner of Collins and Elizabeth Street is Mark Raats. He hails from South Africa originally. He lives now in Perth. Mark, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Can you describe that poster? What's on it?
Yeah, it's a sort of it's meant to be a gunslinger space cowboy poster. So we've got a large image of a guy like a Clint Eastwood pose with his hand hovering over his blaster on the one side. You've got Chewbacca, who we all know from the Star Wars franchise, on the other side. And you've got various characters from the new movie as well as the Millennium Falcon that we all love. And so it's a more abstract piece rather than the usual floating head solution that we find.
The floating, all
that's
different
right.
sizes.
Yeah.
I'm really curious because you've been doing Lucasfilm stuff for ages, but you're a gun for hire always, I presume. Like, who decides which pictures of what characters go on a poster? You or them?
Yeah, every job is different, I guess, but it's normally up to the artist to make the selection. And then what happens is that you'll provide them, because obviously there are a whole lot of drawings that go before, sketches of ideas that you have that they might like, or they say you've got to move this or change that or put this character in. And for example, when I did the 30th anniversary poster for Return of the Jedi, I had a really great image I thought of Mark Hamill to use as a hero piece for Luke Skywalker. Then they had a different idea as to the actual image that they wanted to use. So they gave me what they preferred to use. But normally you get a fair amount of discretion in what goes in.
When did you first do a Star Wars or a Raiders illustration? When did you first do something with them?
Wow. No, it was a long time ago. I can't remember exactly when. It was Star Wars, although because I was working for Lucasfilm in other areas. I started working for Lucasfilm when the original trilogy was re-released in its digital form. So that's about 26 years ago now. So I suppose the first real job I did for them was in that genre. The first image that George saw of mine that he personally liked, because obviously, not everything you do as a junior goes by the big man himself, was a cartoon I did of Yoda, of George's Yoda, actually, that I did for a friend of mine who's the chief editor of a well-known American visual effects magazine. And I did it for her, and through the magic of the internet, and this is years ago, through the magic of the internet, this ended up at Skywalker Ranch, and I ended up with a very formal email that thudded its way into my inbox, which said, "Did you do this?"
Right.
And
from
so
George Lucas.
Well, from his people,
Right,
from George's people. So I knew. Firstly, I was a little worried that I'd offended George, whom I'd never dealt with directly before. But I said tentatively, yes, I'd done it. And then they immediately fired back an email to say, well, George loves it. He wants to buy the original.
Buy the original?
Yes, buy the original.
That's pretty
high praise. So what was nice about that was sort of in a almost roundabout way, although I worked for them already at that point in time, he discovered my work personally and gave me a huge credit by purchasing that was the first original that he bought from me.
Have you met him?
I have, yes.
What was it like the first time you meet someone like that and they like your work?
Look, I don't know him well. I've met him briefly on a couple of occasions, but I think the first of anything is always wonderful. The first time you buy something from him, or the first time you meet the man, the first time of anything is always unforgettable. And certainly from my point of view, the fact that, the Godfather sort of has given his blessing to something that you've done to the extent that he's actually buying original art from you, there's nothing that beats that. I mean, that truly is the top of the tree from my point of view.
Mark Raats' poster for the new Star Wars film, which is a sort of standalone film about the young Han Solo, is on the corner of Elizabeth and Collins Street. Mark lives over in Perth. What do you do? What have you got artistically that you think others don't do?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question, and one I've never been asked before. You know, the job requires you to be incredibly creative, but also to be disciplined in respecting the genre that you're working in. Although, as a younger person, as a younger artist, you might not have the expertise. You might feel, okay, well, in this image, you're going to put a Chewbacca with ribbons in his hair because it actually makes sense compositionally, which it might well. You can't do that. And so I think that from the point of view of what it is, it's not only creative ability, but it's also to look into what the brief is and try and understand the client.
Is that being really creative but within tight confines? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that, because you are trying to come up with something that is different, but you have to still conform with a brand. And that brand has also got to be handled very, very respectfully, and that is also part of the deal. It's all very well just to be able to draw well, and in fact also all very well to be able to make really good compositions. But if you don't understand the underlying background to the project that you're busy working on, the chances are you're going to make mistakes, and that also makes it more difficult for you.
What's your favourite Star Wars film?
The first one, without doubt.
The first one is still your favourite?
Yeah. I think probably because it's the one that got me into the industry. As I said, I was also in the army when it came out, so it sort of came out at a pretty difficult time, I suppose, in my life.
How old were you when it came out, the first one?
I was 18 or 19.
And you were in
when
the
it
South
came
African
out.
Army?
Yeah, I was in the army, yeah.
And why did it have such a big impact on you?
I think just because it was different. I mean, the army then was, we were fighting a war. And it was frivolous something just to look at and enjoy, and I did. It's not that I necessarily needed the escapism, but it was just nice for 2 hours just to think of something different at that point in time, which was wonderful.
Well, you can go and enjoy Mark's work. It's on the corner of Elizabeth and Collins. You need to look up. It's on the side of one of the big buildings there. Mark Raats, thanks for coming.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you.